Little under the weather today, which makes sense because there is a hurricane on the way. So even Florida's under the weather. So I don't feel too bad. But we're gonna jump right into it with the question of the week. It was, what's a lie that you tell or told your kids to keep your sanity? And you guys did not disappoint. Here we go. Our fish went on vacation until I could find another similar looking fish. That, especially for young kids, that death conversation is really tough, right? And for some of us, it's like a human that we know. I remember when Ava was very young, my dad passed around 5, and she hadn't really dealt with death that close. And explaining that to your 5-year-old, tough. But the fish thing does make sense and was very funny. Thank you. That my ice cream is spicy. Why do kids want all of our stuff? I love this, that my ice cream is spicy. I wish I could still use it because, I mean, some adults need to know my ice cream is spicy, to be honest with you. Like, leave me alone. This is mine. Go get yours. And anyone who counts macros knows they don't want to give up their food. I counted this already. What is a lie or lie? What is a lie you tell or told your kids to keep your sanity? Snacks are all gone and then proceed to eat the hidden snacks once they're in bed. Yo, I get it. You know, you want to moderate your kids' calories. Plus, some snacks are just better for the parents. In the comments, please leave a snack that you will not let your kid have that you sneak. That'd be awesome. Oh, so no kids yet. So this is coming from a kid, a child of a parent who told a lie. No kids yet, but my parents told all 7 of us that we were allergic to dogs, so we would stop asking for a pet. Yo, me and my brother asked for a dog forever and just realized that we weren't getting one. But the allergic to dogs, I'm very curious. Like, now I'm gonna reach out. I'm very curious how you learned that you weren't allergic to dogs. And to be perfectly honest, if I had 7 kids, there is no shot I'm adding something that just eats and an additional thing that just eats and can't contribute. At least the 7 of you could contribute to the family. Um, Oh, that's another kid. My parents told me cruises didn't allow kids when I was like 8 years old. Sorry, we have to go on this cruise, and we would bring you. We love you, but you're a kid. Sorry, you can't come on the cruise with us. Yo, these parents are savage. Th- Last but certainly not least, when they call the next morning after a booty call, and I tell them I ran out to get donuts. Excuse me? So first off, I don't. I mean, I, I'm not. You know, I'm not gonna tell you what gender this was, or I'm assuming that this was. But a move. Never would have thought of that. Actually, maybe I would have, but that is. It's funny. We had a rule that when you were late to work, you had to pick up Duncan because like that was the reason that you were late to work. So this actually hits a sweet spot, but also apparently so did he or she. Anyway, welcome to the Wake Up Warrior podcast. It is your guy, Joe. The podcast here is for people who want to learn, grow, and think for themselves, especially those parents, teachers, and leaders out there. If you are right now listening on any of the podcast platforms, please rate the podcast, especially if you think it's a 5. If you don't, do me a favor, wait to the end of this one because it will be, and then you can rate it. If you're on YouTube, then I think you should subscribe because there's going to be more of these coming, and you're going to want to see that. And if you don't, well, then you should. But anywhere you're listening, please share it with a friend. I really do appreciate the growing community that we have of people who are always reaching out, who have been really, really supportive, even though this has happened a few times. But thank you and welcome. Today we're going to jump right into our today's tough topic. This one it's way too close to home because I wanted to talk about this idea of imposter syndrome and how most of us don't have it, myself included. I definitely would tell people, like I feel like I have imposter syndrome, and uh, you know, I think I'm working hard and all this stuff. For most of us, I'm just gonna say it out there. We have self doubt. Right? Here's the definition of imposter syndrome. a behavioral health phenomenon described as self-doubt of intellect, skills, or accomplishments among high achieving individuals. That last part, so important. Why? Because the people who just have self-doubt, who are afraid that they're not good enough or that they might not make it, they're not even starting in a lot of cases. Or they start and they stop because they don't see it or feel it or really believe in themselves. Those with imposter syndrome are already performing at a high level and think that they aren't. Why is that important? Why do we need to make this differential? I don't even know what the word is. Why do we have to point out these differences? Because one has already started. One has already been in the game long enough to achieve some level of success and thinks they are not good enough. They have already built what's considered to be courage to do, to outlast. Where they need to now find courage, because courage comes in many different forms. The imposters, where they need to find courage, is that what they are doing is worthy, not that they are worthy. And maybe it is that they are worthy, but still, they've already achieved some level of success. For those of us who are just doubtful, who feel that courage is something that you just have, let me be the first to tell you that in my experience with the things that I feel that I have earned, gained, blood, sweat, tears, and gotten courage, you don't have it. Right? Let's look at the idea of courage. Right? One of my favorite quotes from none other than Disney's live action Mulan is, "You can't have courage without fear." So if someone just does something, we look at them and think, "Oh my God, they must be courageous. Oh my God, the bravery." And what we're actually saying is, I don't feel that I could do it. I don't feel that I have that ability or talent. Not that they don't, because obviously they've shown they can get across that hump. But the actual courage is on the other side of fear. And that could be in an instant. It's really just stepping up to the plate, acknowledging the fear because it's there, and then saying, although I am fearful, I am going to find out if I'm good enough, if I'm worthy, if I am all of these things. And understand that not being a good accountant, not being a good personal trainer, not being a good musician doesn't mean that you are not enough or are a failure as a person. It means that for this task at this time, and we really got to get under the idea that failing is really when you decide to stop and when you decide that you don't want to do something. It's not failure, it's just moving on. But when we get to the point, no, I'm afraid to do it. We have to be honest with ourselves and speak that honesty out into the world, because once we start to do that, we start to enter in to our minds the idea that we might not be good enough, and that has to be okay. It is okay not to be good enough for something. That doesn't mean you're not a good enough person or a worthy person. Where we have to break down the barrier is the I'm afraid of. You can be afraid, but don't let that fear cripple you into not doing. And don't hide behind this idea of imposter syndrome, because that is reserved for high achievers. And I'm not saying that I am a high achiever. And I will sit here and say that I've actually probably never had imposter syndrome. I'm mid at best. But where I have noticed is that once I started looking at these things realistically, I was just afraid. I was afraid to go all in. I was afraid to find out if I would fail. I was afraid to find out if I couldn't, right? Because we're looking at our peers. The imposters looking at their peers, but really looking at themselves. What I have done is not enough. We are looking at everyone else and saying, I'll never be that. And the approach to that is very, very different. One is already in the game, in the heat of it. The other is afraid to step on the court. We have to stop that in ourselves. I believe in you. Now you have to believe in you. I don't know what it is this week, but that fear that you have, just be willing to find out. At least then you'll know. Because I will say, when we come to an end and our days are gone, we're not going to say, I was a failure at XYZ. And we might talk about the things that we didn't accomplish and how bad it went. But the real regrets will come. I wish I would have. And we have to settle into the pioneer, the explorer spirit of, at least I know for sure. Stop saying that we're imposters and just lean into the fact that right now you don't believe in yourself. That courage is found on the other side of the fear. And going all in, I'm not going to say is difficult. And you might need to build to all in, depending on the circumstances, whether it's school or work or family or relationships. But it's okay to be afraid, because that is what builds courage, not being afraid and just doing it. Whew, I'm gonna slowly move on. Everyone talks about how this transition is tough, but we're gonna move on to the useful thing of the week, the product that I'm using that I love. This one, sorry ladies, is for dads, and I guess uh men in general, but I guess women, you could buy them. I'm not sure if they have a female version of it. But this week is the Fabletics One Short. So I'm actually wearing a pair. I'd show you that, but I have the Fabletics One Short in a couple different varieties. My brother will tell you that I really disliked Fabletics, like a ton. Disliked Fabletics, their shorts and the initial products that they came out with, because the liner was trash, the fit was weird. They didn't have the drawstring initially on some of them, especially the line shorts. So like if you were a big booty Rudy, I guess, um, they would fall off. And so like you're working out and crack kills, so you're destroying the entire gym. And the new version, this one short, first of all, versatile. Can use it anywhere. And as someone who likes to run, jump, swim, play, um, you can use these anywhere for anything. It's the dad short for sure, because it's multi-purpose. One of the other things is the liner. If you've ever wore line shorts, because as a dad, I'm into multifunction. I didn't want to have both underwear and shorts, so to combine them into one, it's like the 2-in-1 shampoo for me. Um, Different hair, I guess. But anyway, the liner doesn't ride up. You're not constantly having to pull it down. It also has a liner pocket that I don't use as much, but a lot of people I know love those. Um, the thing that is so dad on these is, let me show you, is the zipper on the pockets. Now, any dad knows, and I'm a dad who's not even married, but every girlfriend's gonna say, every wife is gonna, can you hold my wallet? Can you hold the my ID only? I don't want to. Can you hold the keys? Can you hold the? And then so you're at an amusement park, or you're in Europe with your daughter, and you're holding these things and are nervous that they're gonna fall out on a ride, or that they're going to you're gonna get robbed in some of these places that are high high thievery. And having the pocket is money. I will say that the zippers do stick a little bit, but the mesh on them, it's really good. It's actually a nice quick dry material. But the pocket is like I also have their one joggers. I now am Fabletics. Like these are the only shorts I wear. I have a couple others that I had before, but currently I'm not sure you can get me out of these unless someone wants to sponsor me with your amazing shorts. So you should do that if they're good and up to the same quality. I'm not getting paid for any of these useful things that I've told you about. I just really love these shorts, and again, super dope colorways. If you want to, extend the dad vibes, I mean, great colorways, bright colors, fun colors, but you also have the standards as well. Big fan of the one shorts from Fabletics. Also, other short people promote them, so me and Kevin Hart are on the same page. Um, and that is going to be our useful thing of the day. I did want to give us that wellness tip. The wellness tip for me is slightly different. And if you've listened to the last two episodes, wellness tips don't necessarily have to be mental, physical, emotional. I think we think of wellness as always like some kind of fitness thing. I think this fitness or wellness tip really is important. I think we have to get back our moments and our minutes as best as we can. I think we have to be with ourselves when we can. And taking the phone to the bathroom is probably something that we don't realize that we do or how it impedes. But I can almost bet that most people who take their phone to the bathroom spend 3 times the amount of time that they would if they hadn't taken their phone to the bathroom. And not just the phone in the bathroom, but also using it while we're in the car. It reminds me both instances remind me of the movie Click, where Adam Sandler can kind of like fast forward through life, and it gets to a point where he doesn't realize that he's missing moments that are happening. And the phone in the car and the phone in the bathroom. And the reason I know that these are such great time savers if you take them out is because I was someone who did both of those things, and I'm very intentional now about not bringing them into the bathroom. Very, very intentional now about not bringing it into the bathroom, or using it in the car, because I've seen how much more present you can be. We talked about one of the other episodes, the more that you can be present with the things that you are doing now, whether it's something asinine like asinine like using the bathroom, that's funny. I think you then gain or earn your presence in other places as well. And so if you are, right, so the people who know right now, if you're taking your phone to the bathroom, stop it and just see the differences and the changes. Same thing with using it in the car. That one is life or death. Oh, I'll just check it. That 30 seconds is so much more than 30. No, right? Like, oh, right. Everyone just jumped. Like, that's how quickly just checking the phone turns into an accident. Now, I don't do it with my daughter in the car, but even still, your life matters as well. So that check can wait to whenever, however, or you have to pull over. Like, uh, definitely definitely monitor, assess when and where you're taking the phone and how you're using it. So the last couple of weeks we've done a hero of the week, and both of those were people who were important to me, but also, I'll just say it, this hero of the week is one of my favorite people in the entire world. I think when we think of heroes, we always look at the origin story and their journey and think that, man, I could never. Right? Like the true people that we consider heroes, I could never. That their suffering, their spirit, we want to embody and emulate, but sometimes in real life, we get these heroes. And hero of the week this week is Franklin Joseph Jennings. Again, one of my favorite people in the entire world. He's also my brother. And for the last 6-7 years, he has been in the baseball coaching game. He's been a volunteer and at a couple different programs, and he's sitting on the brink of getting his first full-time job. And the average person who wants to coach at the Division I level spends about 6 years. The average coach spends about 6 years before they get their first full-time job as a coach at the Division I level. Now, my brother's on that 6 to 7 year track, but when he entered, he knows that an average could be 2 years and it could be 12. And each day, even on the days that it was difficult, he made the choice for his guys, for his coworkers, and because when he realized that he wanted to coach, obviously there were other choices and other opportunities. He found it as his mission, as his journey to do it. 6 years, constantly having 2 or 3 additional jobs, constantly trying to figure out. I mean, he's a volunteer. Volunteers don't. I'm not going to put his business out there, but you can Google it. Volunteers at any of the organizations don't make full-time pay. Regardless of the hours you're put in, you're making full or part-time cash, and you have to find a way. And a lot of people find it very easily to find excuses, and he found a way consistently, time and time again. And selfishly, I loved it. I love watching it. I love seeing it. I love challenging it and some of those tough conversations that we had. But mostly, I loved that my daughter, when she watched him coach, glued. Now, I'm not going to lie. When he's not on the field, she's reading a book because baseball's not her thing. But when he's on the field, she is locked in. When she talks about finding a job that makes her happy, she references him constantly. And I think all of us have fallen into that boat where like our parents say stuff and kind of falls off because they've been like hammering stuff. It's like it's a broken record. It's almost like parents like that. I sometimes don't hear it, right? Like, and so the opposite is true. And for her to look at him and look up to him and the relationship that they have, the impression and influence that he has, being able to say, I do what I love, being able to say, I ate shit for a while to do what I love. She is entertaining careers now, even that most people at her age, but definitely at my age, are afraid to, or were always afraid to. But she's sitting on the front lines of something that is beautiful, where actions and words collide. And I am eternally grateful for him. But also, I mean, I have a tattoo on my arm. It says "My Hero," and it's the last line in cursive. It says, "My brother's my greatest hero, and probably will be all my life." And uh, I got this tattooed because it was the title and the last sentence of an art. I still have it. It's framed. That my brother wrote about me when he was young, and uh, uh, to be honest, I mean, now I'm the guy looking up to him in admiration and inspiration and love because he's definitely one of my heroes. Uh, Franklin, I appreciate you. I value you. Far too often, men especially don't get their flowers until they're gone. And I want you to know, man, sending you all of the flowers, all of the love, all of the respect, going from feeling like a bigger uncle to you, but to being peers. Um, I absolutely love you. I love what you stand for and who you are as a man. And I'm just grateful to have you in our lives for sure. And I know your girl is too. I love you, man. Before we get going, I did want to share the morning minute with you. Something to carry on, something to hopefully help us think throughout the week. And today it's a boiling pot. I want you to imagine that there's a boiling pot in your house on the stove. You can't turn it off. And currently it's on high, right? So obviously, if we have a boiling pot of water and it is on high, right? Temperature's on high. When we walk away and come back to it 20 minutes later, most of us are assuming what? That the water is still boiling, right? And I said you couldn't turn it off. That doesn't mean you couldn't turn it down. And so if we continue to do the same thing, that pot is going to continue to boil, right? Nothing's going to change if we don't change it. And you're probably wondering, why is Joe talking about this? Well, for those of us, and I mentioned earlier that my pops passed when my little one was 5. For those of us who have dealt with or are dealing with grief, we know that if we ignore it, which I did, that boiling pot, when you come back to it, is still boiling. And so if you don't confront that, if you don't make a change, if we don't turn down the temperature of that, and I said you can't turn it off because in my opinion, grief never goes away. It's something that we will deal with forever. It's just, what temperature are you keeping it at? What peace are you able to make with it? Because those things are going to simmer. And sometimes some people may come around when we're not around, or something may come around when we're not around and turn that mofo up and it starts to boil again. But if we, again, do not confront it, if we don't confront the grief, it is going to boil and boil over, right? Because if you leave it hot for too long, that boil turns into something uncontrollable. I don't want to see that happen for you, as it did for me. Find ways to confront it, just like the fears that we talked about earlier, right? Because whether you want to hear it now or not, or believe it or not, loving someone that you lost, missing someone that you cared about, is a beautiful thing. We only do it because of the fact that we love them and we miss them and we miss their presence. I have some people in my life who I feel, should have been in my life, or I'm surprised that they aren't, and I won't miss them when they're past, at all, which seems like a great thing. But for me, I think it's beautiful when we miss someone, when we grieve, when their presence is missed, when we're thinking of them on a regular basis. Hopefully, you find ways to turn the heat down. So it's not boiling and boiling over. But I will tell you that if you ignore it at some point, that there'll be a kitchen, there'll be a fire in your kitchen, and that will be uncontrollable. So confront it the best way that you can. Find help if you need to. You don't have to weather this by yourself. You can ask other people to help turn down the temperature, but uh, also at some point you'll understand the beauty in missing someone that you cared and longed for, and find that those moments of grief that suck, they are ass, are also a beautiful experience. And then also remember to cherish those who are still here, and make sure they understand that they're heard, understood, acknowledged, and valued. And so the experience for me has obviously, as you can hear, I'm sure, brought on some emotional, physical, mental, great things, but also comes with some tough things. And the temperature on that is constantly up and down. But I sit more in the beauty of it now than I did for a long time. So for those dealing with any kind of grief, I just want you to say, you don't have to weather that storm alone. You don't have to ignore it, because if you do, the boiling's going to be there. And it's okay if it never goes away. You love someone, and for a lot of us, it could have been for a very, very, very long time. And if it were to go away, how strong could that connection have been? I think about my dad. Like, there are things that happen. I'm like, man, I would have called my pops, and that is a beautiful thing. But also, his voice is still with me, because now I'm willing to listen to it. I'm sorry that I didn't when you were here, pops. So those of us who are dealing with grief, and for when it comes, find a way to turn the temperature down. And I hope that helps or happens for you as well. Thanks for tuning in to another, what I feel is a great episode of the Wake Up Warrior podcast. If you can, share it. Have a great week. Think on it. And be well. Take care.